We plan for a lot in life, right? Like
Yeah.
our careers, our families, even retirement. But what about our digital afterlife? It's not something we really think about often, is it?
No, not really.
Today, we're going deep into the world of digital legacy, looking at what happens to our online selves after we're gone. And we're going to be using Tina Ginn's book, Don't Let Your Digital Fortune Ghost You, to help guide us along with some interesting articles and podcast excerpts.
Right.
We'll be looking at some cautionary tales of digital disasters, tips for safeguarding your online legacy, and even the idea of digital fortunes, just to give you a better understanding of this overlooked part of our lives.
It really is fascinating to see how much of our lives are online now.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from our banking and investments to our memories and relationships, it's all stored digitally,
Mm-hmm.
but hardly anyone thinks about what happens to that information when they're not around to manage it.
It's like our digital selves could just become these virtual ghosts just floating around the internet. Okay, so let's start by looking at some real-life stories that show why this digital legacy planning is so important. I was reading about Gerald Cotton, the CEO of a cryptocurrency exchange who died unexpectedly.
Oh, yeah, the case of the missing passwords and the $500 million in Bitcoin that basically vanished.
Hmm.
It's such a sad story, and it shows how important it is not only to have a plan in place, but to make sure someone you trust knows how to get to your digital assets.
Yeah, imagine being his wife or a family member having to deal with not only the grief of losing him, but also the fact that millions of dollars are locked away because no one knows the passwords. It really highlights how these aren't just abstract ideas, they have real-world consequences.
They do. And while most of us aren't dealing with those cryptocurrency fortunes, the same concept applies to all of our digital assets.
Exactly.
Imagine your family not being able to get into your online bank accounts, email, social media accounts, even those family pictures you have stored in the cloud.
Oh, God.
It just adds another layer of grief and frustration to an already difficult situation for families.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's switch gears a bit. There's another case I thought was interesting. The one about the guy who accidentally threw away a hard drive that had 8,000 bitcoins on it.
Oh, yeah.
The one who's been trying to get permission to dig up a landfill site for it for like the past 10 years. It's a story that's sad, but also a little bit funny.
Right.
The irony of potentially having a fortune buried in a landfill.
You know, it really shows how important it is to have secure storage and backups for your important assets, especially cryptocurrency. Think about it. That hard drive is worth hundreds of millions of dollars today.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is a little less financially devastating, but still kind of awkward. Those automated email responses, the out-of-office replies or automated messages that people sometimes get even after someone has died. There was this story about a woman whose father passed away, but his automated email responses continued for years.
Yeah, it can be a little strange to receive a cheerful, "I'll get back to you soon"
Yeah.
message from someone who's no longer with us. It makes you think about how we want to be remembered online.
It really does. It also makes you think about your own accounts. Do you want your email sending out those automated responses forever? Probably not the legacy most people want.
Probably not. And it's not just email either, it's social media too. There have been cases where deceased people's Facebook accounts have continued to send birthday wishes or even suggest friends.
That's like a social media haunting? I can definitely see how that could be unsettling for people receiving those. It raises a lot of questions about what happens to our online presence after we die.
For sure, do we want our profiles to stay active? Should they be memorialized? Deleted entirely? These are important things to think about when it comes to digital legacy planning.
Absolutely. So we've seen some real-world examples of what can happen when we don't plan for our digital afterlife. Now let's get practical. What are some common mistakes people make, and how can we avoid them?
A big one is assuming that loved ones will automatically be able to access their digital accounts and information after they're gone.
Oh, yeah. I'm guessing it's not as simple as just knowing someone's email and password anymore. What with online security and privacy, I bet companies aren't too keen on sharing information without the proper authorization.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, in a lot of cases, it's against the law for them to give out account information without legal permission. So the first step in managing your digital legacy is creating a digital will.
Okay, this is where I get a little confused. What exactly is a digital will, and what kind of information should be in it?
Well, you can think of a digital will as a roadmap for your online life. It's a legal document that outlines what you want to happen to your digital stuff after you die.
Okay.
You'll want to include things like a list of all your online accounts, with the usernames and passwords instructions for your social media profiles, whether you want them memorialized, deleted, or managed by someone else.
So it's more than just about money and finances. It's about preserving memories, controlling your online reputation, and making sure your wishes are followed.
Exactly. It's about having control over what happens online, even after you're gone.
Okay, so say I have my digital will drafted. What's next? How do I actually make sure my family can get to this information when the time comes?
That's where password managers come in. They're not just for keeping track of your own passwords while you're alive. They're super helpful for digital legacy planning, too.
I do use a password manager, but honestly, I mainly use it to keep my own logins straight. How does it work for sharing information with others, especially in a situation like this?
Most of the good password managers have features that are specifically designed for legacy planning.
Oh, okay.
You can choose a trusted contact who can access your passwords if you die or become incapacitated.
So instead of having to remember or find some master password, my family would be able to access everything through the password manager.
Exactly. It makes the whole thing much easier and lowers the risk of accounts being lost or forgotten.
Mm,
But you have to choose a password manager that's known for being secure and has good legacy features because they're not all made equally.
gotcha. So we've got our digital will and our password manager all set. Is there anything else we should be thinking about?
Yes, a lot of platforms like Facebook, Google, and Apple, they now let you choose a legacy contact.
Is that kind of like giving someone access through a password manager?
That's a good question. A password manager will give them access to your accounts in general, but a legacy contact is specific to each platform, and you can give them different levels of control.
So it's more about what happens to my social media after I'm gone.
Exactly. You can decide if they can post updates on your behalf, reply to messages, or even download your photos and videos.
Wow. So you're basically giving someone the power to manage your online presence after you're gone. That takes a lot of trust.
It does. Choosing a legacy contact is a big decision. You need to choose someone who understands what you want and who you trust to handle everything carefully and respectfully.
Okay, so far we've covered some really important steps like creating a digital will using a password manager and picking a legacy contact. But I have a feeling there's more to this digital legacy thing, right?
You're right, there's still more practical tips and potential problems we should talk about, especially when it comes to managing things like subscriptions and protecting against identity theft.
That sounds like a good place to pick up after a quick break. We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into the world of digital legacy.
Okay.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're really getting into the how-to of digital legacy planning now, talking about how to put some of these steps into action.
Yeah, it's one thing to get the concepts, but putting them to work is where it gets real.
Totally. So before the break, we were discussing digital wills, password managers, and legacy contacts. What other things can we do to make sure our digital assets are taken care of? What do people often miss?
Subscriptions, in our daily lives, it's so easy to forget about those recurring payments for streaming services, online memberships, or software subscriptions.
Ugh, tell me about it. Those subscriptions can really sneak up on you. I've definitely had those moments where I'm like, wait, am I still paying for that?
Exactly. Now imagine those payments continuing after you're gone. It might not seem like much, but those ongoing charges can really add up and become a burden for your family.
It's like a digital version of those recurring bills you hear about people finding in their relatives' attic after they pass away. Years of magazine subscriptions they never got around to canceling.
Uh-huh. That's a great way to put it. So it's important to make a list of all your active subscriptions and include instructions in your digital will about what you want to happen to them.
So we can actually say which subscriptions we want canceled immediately and which ones, if any, we want to keep active for our family to use.
Yes, exactly. You have total control over how your subscriptions are handled after you're gone.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about finances, let's not forget about cryptocurrency.
Oh, yeah, crypto. It seems like every time I think I've finally figured it out, there's something new to learn or some new challenge to think about. How does inheritance even work with digital currency anyway?
Cryptocurrency definitely adds a whole new layer of complexity to digital legacy. Unlike traditional assets, it's decentralized and often pseudonymous, which makes it tricky to track and manage.
Yeah, we already talked about that case with Gerald Cotton where millions of dollars in Bitcoin were lost just because he was the only one who knew the passwords. But what are some other things that could go wrong even if we have our passwords written down somewhere?
One thing is the security of your crypto wallets. There are
Mhm.
different types of wallets, each with different levels of security. For example, hot wallets, which are connected to the internet, are usually more vulnerable to hacking compared to cold wallets that are stored offline.
So if my cryptocurrency is in a hot wallet, I really need to make sure those passwords are super secure and only shared with people I absolutely trust.
Right. And even if you're using a cold wallet, which is generally safer, there's always the risk of losing the actual device where it's stored.
Yeah.
or even just forgetting where you put it.
Oh gosh, so how do we avoid those problems? Besides putting our crypto wallet info in our digital will, are there other ways to specifically manage crypto inheritance?
One option is to use a multi-signature wallet.
Multi-signature wallet. That sounds kind of complicated. What is that exactly?
Think of it like a safe deposit box that needs two keys to open. A multi-signature wallet works in a similar way. It requires multiple people to approve any transactions. So no one person has complete control over the funds, which adds extra security and accountability.
So if I were to choose two family members as co-signers, then all three of us would need to agree before any Bitcoin could be moved.
Yeah, that's right. It's a way to share control and ensure that the funds can be accessed, even if one of the key holders isn't available, or in the case of legacy planning, if one of them passes away.
That's pretty smart. It seems like that would help prevent arguments between heirs too, since no one person could just take off with all the Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Transparency and communication are really important when dealing with crypto inheritance. You need to let your loved ones know about your crypto holdings, how to access them, and what you want to happen to them.
It seems like the main takeaway here is communication. Whether we're talking about our social media accounts, our finances, or cryptocurrency, the more info we share with the people we trust, the less confusion and potential heartbreak there will be down the road.
You got it.
Hey.
Clear and open communication is key when it comes to any kind of estate planning, even in the digital world.
So we've covered subscriptions and crypto, but there's something else that's been on my mind: identity theft. It's kind of scary to think that even after we're gone, our online identities could be at risk from scammers.
That's a valid concern. When online accounts are left unattended, they become easy targets for hackers. They could steal personal info, impersonate the deceased, or even get into financial accounts.
So this isn't just about protecting our families from headaches with finances. It's also about making sure our reputation is protected and preventing harm to our legacy even after we're gone. What can we do to reduce this risk?
One important thing is to close any accounts that aren't being used anymore. This just lowers the number of potential targets for hackers.
So like if I have an old MySpace account from when I was a teenager that I haven't touched in years, I should probably just delete it.
Exactly. And if you don't want to completely delete an account, a lot of platforms let you deactivate it, which basically hides it and makes it so no one can access it.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about accounts we want to keep, like email or social media?
For those accounts, strong passwords and two-factor authentication are your best friends. Two-factor authentication adds an extra layer of security by asking for a second form of verification, like a code sent to your phone on top of your password.
And this goes back to what we talked about earlier. Using a password manager can really help us have strong, unique passwords for all of our accounts.
Yes, absolutely. Password managers are essential for online security, both during your life and afterwards.
This has been so helpful. I'm actually starting to feel like I'm getting a grip on this digital legacy thing. We've talked about creating a digital will using a password manager, choosing legacy contacts, managing subscriptions, protecting against identity theft, and even figuring out cryptocurrency inheritance.
It's definitely a lot to take in, but even small steps can make a big difference.
I agree. And I think it's important to remember that this isn't just about getting ready for death. It's about being responsible with our digital lives. These steps can help us even while we're still here by making our online info more organized and improving our overall online security.
You're right. Digital legacy planning isn't just about what happens after we're gone. It's about taking control of our digital lives right now.
Well said. And, there are so many resources out there to help us figure this stuff out. Tina Ginn's book is a great starting point, and there are tons of articles, websites, and podcasts dedicated to helping us understand this digital world that's always changing.
For sure. The key is to start the conversation, do some research, and find the resources that work best for you.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final question, something to really think about as you navigate your own digital life. What's that one digital asset that means the most to you? The one you wouldn't want to lose?
It could be anything. Photos, videos, emails, social media posts, creative projects, even cryptocurrency. What has sentimental value for you? What would you want to share with the future generations?
And once you've figured out what that special asset is, ask yourself, what can you do today to protect it?
Do you have it backed up in a few places? Is it part of your digital will? Have you made a plan for someone to access it and keep it safe if you can't?
These are important questions to ask ourselves in this increasingly digital age. Because while technology is great for preserving our memories and staying connected, it also brings new risks.
But by being proactive and managing our digital legacies, we can make sure that our online selves are remembered and cherished in a way that honors our values and wishes.
We hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and confidence to start thinking about your own digital legacy. And remember, it's not just about planning for the future, it's about taking charge of your digital life today.
And if you're looking for a comprehensive and insightful guide to all of this, we highly recommend checking out Tina Ginn's book, Don't Let Your Digital Fortune Ghost You. It's a great resource for anyone who wants to take control of their digital afterlife.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration of digital legacy. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and take good care of your digital self. Welcome back to the deep dive. We spent this episode talking about all the things that make up our digital legacy, things like financial accounts, social media profiles, those crypto wallets. But what about the stuff that's not as easy to define?
Oh, you mean those things that don't have a dollar value attached to them but are still incredibly important and personal?
Yeah, exactly. Like those emails from loved ones, family photos and videos that are stored in the cloud, maybe even creative projects we've put our heart and soul into.
Exactly. Those are often the things we treasure the most, and yet they're the ones that are most likely to get lost or forgotten.
That's a good point. We might have backups of important documents, but what about those digital memories, those pieces of our lives that only exist online?
That's the question we want you to think about today. What's that one digital thing that you wouldn't want to lose? And how can you make sure it's protected?
It might be a folder of handwritten letters from your grandparents that you scanned and saved, or a video of your kids' first steps that's only on your phone.
Maybe it's a collection of digital art, you've made a blog you've been working on, or even just a bunch of emails that tell the story of an important relationship.
Whatever it is, take a minute to think about how you can keep it safe.
Is it backed up in a few different places? Is it mentioned in your digital will? Have you thought about who could access it and take care of it if you're not able to?
These are the kinds of questions we all need to ask ourselves these days. Because even though technology is great for keeping memories and staying connected, it can also make things disappear.
But if we take charge and manage our digital legacy, we can make sure that our online selves are remembered and taken care of in a way that we would want.
I really hope this deep dive has helped you start thinking about your own digital legacy. Don't forget, it's not just about getting ready for what happens after we're gone. It's about being in control of our digital lives right now.
And like we said, if you want a really detailed and helpful guide to all of this, Tina Ginn's book, Don't Let Your Digital Fortune Ghost You, is fantastic. It's a great resource for anyone who wants to make sure their digital afterlife is handled the way they want.
That's right. Thanks for joining us for this exploration of digital legacy. It's been a great conversation. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into something new. Until then, stay curious and stay informed.